My Love of Life Energy is a podcast created by Anna Scott. Anna knows that every human being sees life uniquely. In this podcast, she will talk to people and learn from them. These conversations are to shine the brilliance of each human being she speaks to. Join her. After each exploration, you will expand on your insights and see truth and beauty.
Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to my podcast, My Love of Life Energy. And today, I don't even know, this is where I don't even know how to explain this human being that I'm about to meet because his socks said it all. I met him, our divine life brought us together in Costa Rica, and I saw this man. His name is Brian Cooper. He's known as Cooper, and he was wearing alien socks. And I go, oh, this is the truth of who he is. He's unlike any human being I've ever met in my life. And I did work with him. And I've never met anybody who is so pure, filled with light and love. And it was so grounded in power. And because of him, I was able to wake up to parts of myself that are beyond anything I've imagined. And I invited him here today because I thought, God, I want people to know about what he sees. Because if we did, this whole world would be a better place. So thank you, Cooper. Thanks for joining me today.
No, thank you, Anna. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Yeah, and it's an honor to be connected again in this lifetime.
So Cooper, you call yourself an intergalactic light worker. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So I like to refer to myself as an intergalactic star being. So the planet is spinning around the sun at some crazy rate, and we think in this moment we're sitting still. And we are, but we're still spinning through space. And because of the relativity, we can't feel it. Everything is relative. And we're really all star beings. But I am a star being, and certainly not better than anyone. I am one of many advanced souls that have been seated on the planet to help usher in this next era, the era of light, the era of trust, the era of peace, the era of love, the era of harmony, known as many things: the Golden Age, the Age of Aquarius. But it's an era that is going to be led by the deep, sacred, ancient wisdom of the divine feminine, and it's rising in everyone. So it's rising to bring balance into an out of balance world where we call war holy.
War holy?
Holy.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's my accent. Yeah. And there's nothing holy about going to war. It's a very confused world where we've lost sight of what is true, where we've made up little truths that are not real truths. And so my mission is to help awaken. I call myself a waker upper of waker uppers.
And what does that mean? I love that.
So we're in the process of waking up. So each one of us is essentially a star seed. And not unlike a seed that breaks through and becomes a beautiful flower, the star seed, the breaking through of the star seed can be tumultuous. And many of the most powerful advanced souls and star seeds chose difficult, challenging journeys because they were capable of doing healing based on the behalf of the collective. And so this energy that's rising that we could try to label, and so just to put a simple label on, let's call it consciousness, but you call it love consciousness, you call it Christ consciousness, you call it God consciousness. We're trying to name something that's not measurable, not definable, and not nameable, right? So we're just trying to put some description because people need something to hang their hat on and get a feel for. So this force that we are all part of, that is in every one of us, has been confused, to say the least, and has been misdirected, sometimes unconsciously and sometimes nefariously, for personal gain. And personal gain can include collective gain of an institution. And what's rising in all of us is this deep wisdom, this force. It's the equivalent of consciousness flowering individually within each one of us. And so, my seeding and flowering is going to be different to your seeding and flowering, just like different flowers, even of the same kind, flower differently, right, at different timings, even if they're getting the same amount of sun and light. And so we've all lived unique journeys. We all have a unique DNA, albeit we're sparks of the same light. And we've been separated by those that are choosing to keep the frequency on the planet low. And so there are a lot of agendas, without getting into conspiracy theories, because I don't think that serves necessarily. But there are a lot of agendas that want to keep the world in fear and separated. And the tools they use for that is the media. So the media is, no matter what news journal you look at, it's all negative. The first 10 articles are going to be negative. And it's everywhere. I mean, governments, in Washington, we've got Tweedledee and Tweedledum. It's all about them. They'd rather be right than do the right thing, both parties. And the system is so broken, the healthcare system is so broken. And it's because people have put greed, money, power, control, essentially ahead of the greater good. And it's comes from a place of low consciousness or confusion. Because the majority of people, everybody innately is good.
Oh my God, Cooper. When you say that, I can feel how you know the truth of that.
Yeah, everybody innately is good. Your soul is good. Your soul's here for lessons, to learn, to grow, and to evolve. And in this case, the level of evolution we're going through with consciousness is more of a revolution. So it's a rapid evolution.
So I really want the thing that shocked me about you is where you came from. Like, you were in a different world. You weren't this person before that. Like the way you're speaking now and what you see, but you woke up, correct? You were in the business world.
Yeah. I was an atheist. I was a muggle. Not a bad muggle, but I was a muggle, essentially. I didn't know that I didn't know. And so I was what I would call wide asleep. I thought I was happy, but I didn't understand what joy was. And I thought that, I was convinced that there was no force beyond, I didn't have any issue that there would be UFOs and aliens and other life, but I didn't believe in the concept of a God or a higher power. And I got essentially slapped awake. But when I say slapped awake, is a lot of people think that when you've had an awakening experience, you're awake. And I wouldn't say I am awake. I am in the process of awakening. So I'm the flower, the rosebud, where the little 5 green things that hold it tightly shut and closed and asleep. It just popped. In 2005, I had an experience where it popped open, and I realized I was lying to myself, and went from being a software entrepreneur to actually going on shamanic journey, and not realizing that was my path. I thought all my business ideas were my own. I had no idea I was being guided the whole time. And yeah, it was all by divinely orchestrated that I would become an atheist, so that when I did realize, I would dedicate myself to the truth.
Wow. I have a saying that it's called the pony and the manure, that life is always working. There is a pony in something. And that's what I think you're pointing to. These experiences that we label as bad or difficult or shouldn't have happened, that they really are for us, not to us. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nothing is in the way. It's all on the way. So Nothing is in the way; it's all on the way.
Say more about that. I've never heard that one before. I love that.
Okay, so let's take the seed cracking in the soil. So if it's a human with a human mind perspective, our brains only know what they know. It's just a data bank, right? Their hearts know everything, and our process of returning to ourselves is remembering, as you and I have discussed. And so, whereas the seed is breaking through to others watching the chaos that could be caused, which was pre-agreed in some sort of soul contract, but it could look like the person's losing it. But instead, what they're losing is their old self. They're essentially shedding a skin. And in the case of the seed, it's a shell. So it's had enough moisture from the soil to soften and be able to burst through it.
Oh, wow.
And so if you sort of liken our soul's journey as like the flower, as it goes up, it starts to get little leaves popping up. And so as the leaf pops out, it has to have stress to push through the stem, right? And so these are our own souls are flowering uniquely in their own way. So you're going to have different leaves than me, even though we might be the same type of flower. Right? And you might have more leaves, you might have less leaves. Neither one is better, but we live in a world where we've confused what is better. That's a whole different topic. But so our work is to not judge what's happened to us. Because what's happened has happened. Right?
Okay, you just said, I'm sorry, but like that one is where I see people get stuck.
Yeah. People get stuck in thought. That's why you're an expert on thought.
Yeah, but the judgment is a thought, but like we get stuck in the judging rather than curious or interested in what's happening.
Yeah, bingo. Yeah. When one is curious, or even to exaggerate it, like when you're learning to play golf or tennis, you exaggerate what you're learning. And so to exaggerate it, think of it as super curious. Like the little kid, just like, what is that? As opposed to, ooh, that's bad. And so you've already labeled it and set an expectation around it. Whereas if you say, what is that? And what's that in service of? Everything's in service of something. And so we judge our experiences, and even more so than that, we allow others to judge our experiences.
Say more about that. What do you mean?
So each one of us is the CEO of our lives, the chief enjoyment officer. And our goal is joy. Everyone's goal is joy. Everyone's goal is happiness and love. Right? And if you have a mother or a sister or a brother or a friend that is telling you how you should run your life, it's good to take in the input, right? But don't feel the pressure of saying yes to them when your answer is a no. Right? You're responsible for your once you're an adult, you're responsible for your decisions, right? And you can't abdicate responsibility of that to someone else, because then you're looking for love on the outside rather than the inside. You're looking for acceptance on the outside rather than the inside.
So you just like what you just said right there, Cooper, is the biggest misunderstanding that I see about life. And you just did it so casually. I want you to like frame that and say that again about where love comes from and the misunderstanding where people are looking.
Yeah. Can I express it in a different way?
You can express it in any way you want.
So you have multiple selves. You've got the little self at a little s, right, which is based on your identities, your masks, your personality that you've developed over time. And then you have your big self, your eternal self, your star being self, the light being that you are, and that we all are. That version of you the eternal version of you, is already living in a plane of non-duality, and therefore can't judge and won't judge. So we're your gentle guide, and yet we've all got these voices in our heads telling us, you should have done this, you should have done that, you should do it this way, you should have done that way. And then we have others adding to that from the outside. And so the voice of the inner critic, which is the ego, is the one to learn to not give any further power to. Once you realize that you're the CEO of your life, you then have made a big step in disempowering the ego. It can still say what it wants.
But the thing you said that I think is the biggest misunderstanding that I had to learn is where love resides. I used to think that love was outside of me. I mean, I slept with I don't know how many men looking for it and turning over how many rocks. And it wasn't until I woke up and realized that I was made of love and that I am love that life changed.
Yeah. And that love will not judge you. So the judge is not the true self. The judge is the false self, the egoic self, and the little self, and that's always voting right or wrong, yes or no.
But to feel
trust
the difference,
or not.
You said at the beginning of this that you thought you were happy. Like we can have the trappings of happy, like the societal, cultural thinking.
Yeah. Lots of stuff.
And you
know,
the role, the title.
Yeah.
But then when you feel this eternal love, it's different.
Yeah.
It's a different feeling.
Yeah. It's completely different. You're feeling it right now.
Yeah.
I can feel you feeling it.
And then I feel you feeling it, and it becomes this like, oh my God.
Well, that is literally the when two or more are gathered effect.
Say more.
So when two or more are gathered, so in presence, so we're not just present right now. We're not just here. We're also in presence. We're in presence of our own divinity, and that divinity is like joins, regardless of where you are. Like we can be opposite sides of the planet. We can actually be different places in the universe, and there's a consciousness that's existing between you and I. There's your individual consciousness, there's my individual consciousness, and there's this collective consciousness. And as people join in and listen, they're participating in the consciousness.
So I'm not going to, when I start to feel all of this energy, and as Cooper is talking about, he's pointing to the in between us, and that's the field, the infinite field, where we're all connected.
Yeah.
And it grows exponentially, the power of it.
Yeah. It's the source of all of us, not some of us, not a particular type of us. It's all of us. Yeah. We are all earthlings floating through space with avatar engineered spacesuits.
But the us is also the animals, the plants.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom there's so many dimensions and realms that the average human has no sense of yet. And I say yet because everything's shifting. And so much of the planet is the equivalent of just over 500 years ago when they thought the earth was flat. And so
has it only been 500 years?
Yeah, it was just over 500 years. Yeah.
Whoa. I don't know why that one. Wow.
Well, yeah. And yes, and that's the thing is that's not that long ago. And everything's accelerating. People are waking up in droves across the planet. And these same people that are waking up are the arrowheads of what would be known as a great awakening. Could also be called the ascension. It could also be called the second coming. The second coming is not the second coming. The second coming is the coming.
What do you mean?
So the second coming was expected to be the coming of another representation of Christ. And that is what's waking up in everyone. So it's not, there are forces, nefarious forces that have been watching for someone. But there is no someone, it's some everyone. And so everyone that wants to, look inside. So as Rumi said, that you seek is seeking you. And if you're here to share with us today, he would say, and it's already inside of you. Yeah, we're all light beings. So we have filaments of light in every cell in our bodies. There's a reason that every one of our 50 trillion cells has a complete replica of our DNA. Think about that.
I can just feel the reverberation. When I say like people turn on, their light turns on, it's like a motor turns on, and the current of our bodies, because the filaments, they just start dancing. It feels like a pulsing.
Yeah.
And it goes out, the pulse goes out loud, like a wider wave. Like all of our lights are on, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
We're not aware
all lights
of
are already on. And the dimmer switch has been turned down on so many. So the dimmer switch before, when I was asleep, wide asleep, was so turned down, I had no idea there was light. I had no sense of that there was light within me. Right? And the more work I've done, the more the flower blossoms.
You know, it reminds me of what you just said. Like the image for people to get, if they're listening to this, is that they have beautiful music that is playing inside of them.
Oh yeah.
But the volume is so low that they can't hear it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and the fear dials on the planet are dialed way up. They're dialed way up. The fear dials.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So they're dialed way up to keep the vibration way low. Right? And so, the creator, whatever we want to name the creator, it's like we could give you 1,000 names and they still won't define you. Right? So here we're trying to define the creator with terminology, but the creator's all knowing. And so even the pandemic, even though the creator wouldn't have necessarily set the pandemic into play, we have free will. Right? So the creator knows what's going on, all the way down to corona virus. Corona is Spanish for crown. And crown chakra is where the light gets in. And so there's a huge game of spiritual chess that's been going on. And what the nefarious forces don't realize is that the planet has been seeded by so many powerful advanced souls. And these advanced souls are going through the initial awakening process, and then they, in turn, will get those that realize what's happening isn't working, and they will create a system. So the systems busters and systems creators, they will create a system for everyone to move into that is willing and open to look inside, see what they'll find, forgive themselves, forgive everyone else, release themselves from their own prisons, and rise. The ascension is a vibratory ascension. It's an inscension.
What does that mean?
So you can't ascend by just going to church, right? And looking outside of yourself for forgiveness, for to be saved, right?
For love.
It's literally an inside job, right?
Yeah.
And an outside job, right? So I'm not saying it's only an inside job, but what one would be best served with is to start really believing in themselves, to own their own self-sovereignty, which is our journey. And it's not easy to love yourself unconditionally. And when you love yourself and you're kind to yourself, it's the true form of being self-centered, right? It's not the narcissistic form of being self-centered where you're creating this bravado that comes from insecurity.
It's so interesting what you're saying, because my experience with you is that you're such a champion of women, like you really are a stand for women being in their power. And for women, taking care of yourself is considered self-centered. Like
Yeah.
that's the culture, like other people are more important than you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
you're saying is no, you take care of yourself, you love yourself. And from that place, oh God, talk about wow, I just saw it. Oh shit. I just saw it because it's the truth. It's the geyser. Like that geyser is unlimited. The more I feel this love that emanates in me, it just pours out of me. It just rises and falls out
Yeah.
naturally.
It's actually an allowing. Yeah. Yeah. It's actually an allowing. I mean, look, people refer to letting go, and it's letting go of the attachments that are preventing you from the allowing.
Mm.
And what you just described with the geyser is an allowing.
Say more. What do you mean? What did you hear when I saw that?
You're allowing it to come up and flow through you, right, and express through you. And as you allow that, you're offering it to others naturally. I mean, I call it leading with your light,
Yeah.
and but it's also leading with love. And when you're kind to others, it keeps coming back to you.
Well, what's interesting about this is that when it comes up, like it just feels like it goes out naturally. There's not a lot of me having to do
Yeah.
an effort.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Like
It's actually. Yeah.
it happens naturally is what it
Yeah.
feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's the allowing. So you just opened. All you did was open it to allow it, right?
Mm.
And there it is. Boom. And it's actually. I mean, because we've entangled ourselves in so much like thought, we're trying to think through everything. And our work is to actually simplify everything. Right? It doesn't have to be as complex as we've made it. But those that are in charge of frequency want it to be complex. So in Washington, their primary goal is to confuse you. Right? We don't need you not to believe in us. We just need you not believe in any other party.
Well, we don't want you to believe in
So,
yourself.
yeah. And they don't want anyone empowered. Yeah. But
What,
things are shifting.
but you just said something, oh God, about simple and complex. And the work that I have seen and keep reading, Sydney Banks would say complexity is of the intellect, simple is of the heart.
Yeah. 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 One is of the head and the other is of the heart. Yes.
Right. And we have been living backwards, is what I'm understanding. The intellect is to be a servant of the heart.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
supposed to feel it. And then a simple message goes to the intellect just of what, like, oh, here, just give this to this person.
Yeah.
Oh, do this.
Yeah. Yeah. So the mind needs something to drive it. And so our journey home is from 24 inches from here to here.
But if you can't see it, so Cooper's going from his head to his heart.
Yeah. And so if the mind now we know that we are capable of rewiring the way we think and rewiring our old patterns that don't serve us. If the mind is not led by the heart, it will be led by the ego.
But what you are pointing to in like I've just done a 1,000-year journey of mystics, and everybody's been saying the same thing.
Mm.
And what you just said about like the whole geyser thing is when I let that lead, that's the leader. That heart is the leader of the intellect.
Yeah. 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 So the heart space holds the seventh sense. So the sixth sense is our gut sense, in our intuition, right, which is commonly known but not universally accepted. But it's it's saying exists. I should have trusted my gut for a reason. Right? The seventh sense is when it lives in your heart, and it's knowingness.
Mm.
And knowingness is when you feel something to be true, right? So your body knows the truth already. And so with knowingness, you don't need it to be proven. You don't need anything. You like, and the knowingness comes from remembrance, right? And your body will give you indications. So goosebumps are really truth bumps. It's your hair standing up on end, saying what, and, and chills are truth chills, right? So paying attention to your body will give you a sense for what's going on.
It's so funny. Right now, I feel such reverence. Reverence for this, that I've met you, that I'm having this conversation with you, that we're having this conversation.
Thank you.
This wasn't 50 years ago, this wasn't possible.
Yeah. And that's an example of how much we've already expanded. 20 years ago, people would whisper, do you believe in reincarnation? And
God.
now you see someone say, wow, I think we've known each other before. Right.
Yeah.
So, and that's just another example of, more and more people. And I say this pointing the finger at myself first, they're coming out of the closet, and just acknowledging I'm deeply spiritual, which is very different to deeply religious. Right? So you can still have the same belief there's a higher power, but you're not putting all the constraints that are man-made. All these man-made rules around what hell is, or what God is, and what God wants,
or sin.
Yeah.
Like I look at what religion did to women and how it marginalized us. Yeah.
And the important thing is, so back to your point on women. So women are here literally to lead us home. And I know that I was sent as a man to represent that.
Yeah.
Because, and women are waking up faster than men.
Yeah.
And it's not a contest. So don't get me wrong. It's just they chose to come as women in this pivotal time that women are stepping into their power. And their power is not power as we've known it in what we could refer to as the patriarchy, right? Their power is one of empowering.
Yeah.
They want to empower communities. They want fairness. They want peace. The advanced civilizations that have been on the planet before, like Lemurian and Egyptian, were led by women.
Yeah.
And so many of these women are back in a different form, in different avatars. And they're here to lead and do their part. Everything that you have learned and I have learned and everyone that may be listening to this has learned is for what's coming.
Yeah.
Not what's come thus far. What's come thus far has rarely been witnessed. What's coming has never been witnessed. This is the greatest show in the universe. We are not just completing the awakening and the transition to 5D and beyond of Gaia and its inhabitants. It's the entire universe. This will be the first time this has happened as a planet.
On that note,
yeah,
we go on, but that's the next conversation. But I have a limited, because I chose it, and I want to have you back.
You're very welcome. I love you.
So Cooper, if people want to find you other than the universe, which I know the universe always works, but is there another way that they connect with you or anything you want to share before
they could email at yoursoulwhisperers@gmail.
Mm-hmm.
So yoursoulwhisperers@gmail. Or they could go to my Instagram, which is Cooper Bryan 1111. which I use for messaging. I don't really post there much, but I do use it for messaging.
And I want to say that working with you is an honor. And whoever gets that, I'll put it in the bio, but whoever gets to work with you, because you're helping people remember who they are. They are this light and love.
Yeah.
And then they bring that light and love to every relationship they interact with.
Yeah. Yeah. We call ourselves wingmen. Our job is to help all these angelic light beings get their wings and let go of the shackles that limit them and keep them small.
Mm. It's such a gift to be with you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you.